Excellent. Hi, everyone. So my name is Marcus. I'm part of the success team here at Swoop. And this session today is to take you through a little bit of an overview of Swoop. So a bit of a recap, some of our existing partners, a bit of insight to those that are a little bit curious, and also touch on some of the areas that we help that might always be that obvious. So you should have some people join in. But what I'll do is I'll jump straight in. Just those that have joined nice and early, we can get going. So what I want to address today really is a bit of three areas, which is looking at sort of why Swoop and where it sort of fits within your app stack or your offering within the firm, why it's important to have these types of conversations with clients. The what, so what is it we do here and how does that help? And also how do we do it? And the other services we can offer alongside that as well. Now, if you've got any questions going through this, do jump in at any point, or afterwards there'll be a little bit of a poll to direct you towards any kind of help you might need off the back of this as well. But what I wanted to initially was to set the scene a little bit in terms of some of the challenges we're seeing and why a lot of our accounting partners are starting to offer these services. Small businesses in the UK have tons of different problems and different challenges, as you'll know, being their advisor, whether it be getting paid on time and you're potentially looking at other ways to support them with that, rising costs, whether that be through energy or supplies or other goods. There's loads of costs in the business that are going up. There's also a lot of lack of support from banks. And I think that follows on to the last point, really, is that we're finding that with the banks that are pulling back, who are not offering these types of relationship lending type services that they did before, there's definitely a massive void now where accountants can step into that role and become that almost relationship finance provider. And that's not just from a lending perspective, but that's also other services you can provide that work really well with that. But that's not discounting the challenges that you have in your practice. There was a great spotlight reporting report that came out not too long ago that touched on some of the key challenges that were being experienced, not just within the UK, but globally for accounting firms. Now, some of those were time, as I'm sure a lot of you can empathise with and even sympathise to some extent, is that time is quite tight. That's time to be able to serve your clients and to also recover that time. That's feeding into things like resourcing as well. Recruitment is quite tough. There's lots of firms out there that are considering other ways to start to resource some of this work, whether it be outsourcing, offshoring, or even looking at things like acquisition to start to acquire new talent within the firm and give them a bit more capacity to deliver more services. Pricing's a key one as well. It's often that firms are running on quite tight margins. Therefore, offering over and above services is a challenge, particularly where they're either not pricing for it up front, or it can be a little bit of a challenge to justify some of those fees as well. And part of that, again, feeding into those problems is education development of your team members. With that lack of time and capacity, obviously developing their skills and helping them have better conversations with the clients is being impacted by a lot of that. And then finally, access to products. I'll feed into that in a little bit, but getting an understanding of what is available in the market is quite key, not just from a funding perspective, but even knowing what else is out there in terms of other financial services or other products that you can help your clients with. It is all time consuming and does take a lot of effort. And there are lots of ways that we can help, which I'll touch on through this as well. And what that feeds into, I think, as well, is the opportunities that you have as a firm. There's definitely a need within the small business market for you to be able to offer these services. And Spotlight, again, touch on that really, really nice in terms of the fee growth that's expected across loads of different firms across the globe. And that mirrors quite nicely within the UK as well. So those firms that are looking to do more sort of virtual CFO and advisory work based on reporting, those that are there to support with strategic planning, whether it be forecasting or cash flow and tech assistance. And also one key one in there was around capital or debt raising. And that feeds really nicely into how you can use things like funding as a great way to effectively increase the value on some of your other products or combine them in a conversation with things like cash flow forecasting, for example. Leading with a conversation when it comes to funding and using a cash flow forecast as a nice way to end that conversation in terms of some additional scenario planning or other support necessary around that is a great way to combine the two to show a nice value add service for the client. Standalone, those things can be a little bit tricky to implement. Now, so what do we do here at Swoop? Just a bit of a reminder. I mentioned this a lot. It's a bit of a blessing and a curse of the breadth of product we do have, but I'll talk a little bit how we can support you with that. But our four key areas that we work here at Swoop is loans, grants, equity, and savings. And that's the funding and savings side of what we do here at Swoop. That's a range of the full market of lending, all the way from startup lending, all the way through to your larger clients who are perhaps looking to go into acquisitions or management buyouts. We do full end-to-end with a little bit of cash flow, asset and property in there as well. Then we've got the grants and equity side. So for those likely more innovative clients who are either to look at regional or national government grants, as well as some of those Innovate UK funds that are out there as well. Also on the equity side, for those clients that are looking for investment from investors, whether it be through SCIS or other angels or venture capital funds that are out there, we've got a panel of investors to support with that. And then finally at the bottom, we've got savings, a little bit of a catch net, but it's all things that hopefully help the client save time, money, and with things like the deposit savings that can be spread across multiple accounts, saving risk as well. Now, there's loads of different bits we go in there, and we can do a separate session to dive into each of those areas in a bit more detail, just so you're familiar and you're a bit more confident with what's available. But we don't just stop there. Giving you access to products is great, but having support to be able to implement them and outsource all of that time taken to be able to liaise with these different partners is important. If you do want to outsource that, you can do that through Swoop as well. We have a dedicated team here at Swoop, so we don't just have a team of brokers. We do have a team of advisor team that are here to help you with the implementation, marketing content as well, to give you some of those tools to be able to market to your clients and communicate that you can offer these services, as well as a range of other topics such as the funding masterclasses, savings masterclasses, and other ways we can support you with things like process and pricing. There's loads of bits we can touch on through this. We are classed as a success team, and the reason for that is not just a fancy name for an account manager. It's really about helping you understand the implementation of these services as well, making sure your team are engaged. We don't just get one person in the firm that's really good at this, making sure that all clients and all members of staff are engaging. We're also very lucky that we do have a very experienced funding team. There's a few faces that you may or may not have seen in the past. We've got specialized divisions within Swoop, those that sit in the asset team and those that sit in the property, the corporate, sort of larger, more complex structured funding, and even those that sit in the grants and equity as well. So that's really important for you to have that almost on-call support. If you wanted to talk through about a client, wanted them to join a call with you and the client, or even just be able to outsource that work to someone that you can trust and has experience in that field, that's what we're providing here at Swoop. We're also quite lucky as well. We've got tons of different partners that are starting to realize some of the broader wins that come with offering these types of services. So we've got a few familiar faces that you may know on there, but some of the things that come out of a lot of these case studies and conversations that we have with our partners is really about how these services, whether it be funding or energy savings or deposit savings, can start to complement their other services. It helps them deliver value to their clients where perhaps there's short-term needs that the client might have, which you can perhaps move out the way to get to those larger pieces of work and more long-term pieces of work for the client. It also helps engage the team. Team development is quite a key part of making sure you're continuing to serve the client and reduce bottlenecks of the likes of being a sole practitioner or partners. And that's something that we can support here with some of the smaller, more simple products that don't necessarily need that perhaps strategic view or deep understanding of a business. We still can get various levels of team members engaged with that too. So in terms of sort of how we do it, we've got the portal there. Just want to show you a few screenshots there. So we try to eliminate as much of the friction points as possible when you are speaking to your clients, and hopefully get from your environment into ours as quickly and efficiently as possible. And there's a couple of ways that we do that. First of all, we've got our main effectively advisor portal where you can upload the client details and then get that through to Swoop, whether it be to look for grants or outsource that to our advisor focused team or funding managers when it comes to things like funding and other products as well. Within the platform, you can spot which grants your clients are eligible for, which is really key. And we basically whittle down the 200 to 300 grants that are in the UK at any one time into a manageable list. And there's lots of developments happening behind the scenes in the grant side to make that a little bit easier for you to engage with clients and get a bit more interaction with them. But a lot of it here is just the awareness and making sure that you have ability to signpost clients to various different grants across the UK that are eligible for based on their region and trading activity. Definitely is a little bit of a keen eye from yourselves to work out which grants are suitable based on projects that your clients are up to. But bringing that down from 300 into perhaps 16 results in this instance is a great way to save that time as well. One thing that works really well, particularly if you are trying to serve the broad client base or your full client base, there will be some clients where there's probably not a lot of value that you can add, particularly at that perhaps low fee price point or perhaps not engaged, but you still want to be able to serve them and understand if there is a need within the broader portfolio of clients. So we built a white label offering for our partners as well. And that allows you to embed it in your website and have an extended customer journey that allows the clients to interact themselves and effectively self-onboard themselves into Swoop. Now, we want to make sure you're at the forefront of this and you're being led as the trusted advisor. So we're able to badge that up with your branding and logos as well, which is really key. And it's not just about saving time, but it is creating a way for you to serve your full client base without worrying about things like unchargeable time. This is a great way you can start to add Swoop into other processes as well. So things like management accounts is quite good. So I've seen a lot of firms either bed this into a PDF link within the management accounts or even like a QR code, which is a great way to have insights off the back of those reportings. And then the call to action after that point is to go through into Swoop and look for grants or other funding that might support some of those advisory points as well. One thing I do want to touch on, and we'll have a little bit of a poll at the end of this, is some of the support that we can provide as well. And just revisiting some of that. And I think that's often what is lacking in a lot of the implementation or a lot of the projects that we do with a lot of our firms is the awareness of things like people in education. So making sure the team are actually upskilled to have these conversations and are comfortable with spotting opportunities. What we don't want to happen is that you buy Swoop or subscribe to Swoop, you be able to serve a couple of clients that are actively coming to you with these problems, and that's it. You only have sort of 3 or 4 clients that are using the service, and the rest of the clients aren't really seeing the benefit of that. So the way we're here to solve that is by our customer success team. We're here to provide a range of, as I mentioned before, like masterclasses. Now I've got a few on here that are like our off-the-shelf masterclasses, but we can do lots of different bespoke ones for you too. But you see that it covers a range of different products that we have available. So the unsecured, the equity or grants, even things like some of the secure finance like asset and commercial mortgage. And that's there to give your teams the confidence, but also the competence to have some of these conversations and not be caught out with the questions that come back from clients. And then towards the bottom, we see we've got marketing as well. So more around your value proposition and making sure you're, one, attracting new clients through things like blog content as well, but also the ways that you can start to communicate to your existing clients. Part of this battle was going to be keeping it front of mind and building that into your marketing content as well. And things like newsletters is a really good way of doing it. Another good way of doing that as well is building it into your processes. So often a point that a lot of firms overlook is that it can be very ad hoc when it comes to funding. As and when clients come to you, maybe it makes up a larger piece of work for a bit of exit planning that you're doing for a client. There's lots of clients out there that access finance is quite important for, whether it is just short-term cash flow, whether it is spreading supplier payments out over a period of time. And keeping that front of mind of you being the first person to go to is important. So building that into a process right from the point of proposal to a new client, to even things like VAT returns, for example, is often one that I talk about. It's a very simple one to understand. When you are doing a VAT return for a client and you're sharing the liability with them, you can then give them 3 options, which is you pay with the cash that you have. You either look at a time to pay, which either we'll charge for, or you can do that on your own. Or the third option is to spread that liability out over 3 months with a bit of short-term finance. Sometimes giving the client the extra option is a great way to support with that. And that's even right way through to year end. Have a nice year end checklist where you ask a few questions, what funding we're taking out this year, reminded that we can support you with that, and then put them in touch with an expert in Swoop's environment to help them understand whether what they've got right now is fit for purpose, but also understand what their future borrowing requirements are. Having a good lead time before they actually need the funding is really important, because we'd love to be able to have every lender and be able to come back with an answer within a couple of days, but unfortunately that's just not the reality. And getting funding in place really quick is possible, but you do pay for the speed. So the further we can get ahead of the need for the client is going to give them a much better chance of accessing the best rates in the market. And the way of doing that is bedding it into your processes, constantly reminding your clients. And when you are seeing them taking out funding through other providers, just remind them you can do this as a service as well. And the final part I'll touch on as well is around pricing. Now, there's typically 3 ways that you can realize the return on investment for Swoop. One of that is standalone pricing, so charging for funding applications, or productizing some of the services we do have. Some of our firms will do like an annual health check for their clients, which includes things like energy savings, insurance, looking at some of their international payments as well and see if there's a better solution for that, but also a bit of a debt review. And that's very easy to invite them into, put them through into Swoop, and we can take care of that support for them as well. So you're leading the conversation as their advisor, but outsourcing that to some of the experts. It's a bit of a general practitioner type role. So there's lots of different ways we can help. Please do lean on us where possible. We say this a lot, and it's a term that I've coined from Sam over here, but our most successful firms are the ones that lean on us the most. Having access to products is one thing, but getting the support to implement it is key. And not every firm has the processes in place to do so. So do lean on us with that. What I do want to end this with, though, is a little poll, which is hopefully to direct you guys to some of the support that we do have. We always try and get in contact with yourselves, but timing is one thing, but also prioritizing those firms that need it the most is quite key for us. So one way for us to do that is I want to get Laura to put up a poll just on the screen. There'll be a range of bits on there around pricing or process or even all of the above. And it might even just be a quick review session that you might want for your team. But when the poll does come up, if it's up on the screen already, please do select one of those options. One of the team over here will reach out just to talk you through how that might work, how other firms are doing that, and share some ways that you can start to see the benefits of working with Swoop if you're not already. So I'll give you a few seconds to fill that out. If you do have any questions, please do let us know. You're more welcome to reach out to us as well. And the email for the team, if you haven't got a dedicated person to speak to here, is advisor@swoopfunding.com. But definitely pick one of those options and we'll be in touch. Excellent. Laura, do we have any questions that have come through at all? Don't think so. No problem. Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. As a reminder, my name is Marcus. I'm part of the success team here at Swoop. If you want to talk about any of these services, whether it's about the products, pricing, process, or even just education for your team, do get in touch. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.